and welcome to the May 2024 edition of Florida by the Numbers. I'm Keith Richard, Vice President of Research for the Florida Chamber Foundation. This is my first Florida by the Numbers update, and it's a pleasure to be walking you through the latest economic data on Florida's labor market, inflation trends, new tourism records, and more. But before we dive into the analyses, I want to showcase our publicly available online resource, the floridascorecard.org. This data tool provides high-level insights into the latest economic metrics for Florida. It covers a variety of data points such as net new jobs, open jobs, unemployment, consumer sentiment, and housing statistics. These metrics, as well as dozens of other economic metrics, are tracked on the scorecard at the state and county levels. So please check it out. Now, let's get started reviewing what's changed with our labor market since last month's update. Employment in Florida is nearing 10 million jobs, with an additional 45,300 jobs added last month. And after a few months of minimal and in one instance negative growth from month to month, this is the largest monthly employment increase in 2024. Florida gained 240,500 jobs over a one-year period, seeing faster annual growth of 2.5% compared to last month's one-year change. Let's take a deeper look at these annual job changes by industry. All but one of the major industries, financial activities, added jobs since April 2023. Education and health services, once again, had the largest number and percentage increase in job growth, as jobs in healthcare remain the most in-demand occupations in Florida. The financial activities industry, including jobs in insurance, accounting, and banking, saw a decline in jobs, although only slightly. Let's shift our focus to unemployment. Florida's unemployment rate ticked up very slightly in April to 3.3%. The unemployment rate has been slowly increasing in Florida, but this is not anything to be weary of. The unemployment rate is actually approaching a more natural level, allowing for more flexibility and stability in the labor market. A steadying out of the unemployment rate can bring balance into a labor market that is experiencing workforce shortages, like Florida has for the last few years. For example, currently for every 100 jobs open in Florida, there are only 86 Floridians looking for work. Now, these shortages obviously vary county by county, with gaps as big as 58 Floridians looking for work for every 100 open jobs in Alachua County. In some counties, like Holmes, the labor market challenges are different, as there are more unemployed people than there are open jobs. The floridascorecard.org shows the workforce gaps in every county, so be sure to visit to see what workforce challenges and opportunities are present in your area. We'll be continuing the conversation about Florida's growing workforce and the talent pipeline at our 2024 Learners to Earners Workforce Solutions Summit in Tampa, Florida at the end of June. Scan the QR code on the screen to register and engage with your Florida business peers, education and workforce advocates, and lawmakers as we discuss the importance of investing in early learning and closing the skills gaps in the current and future workforce. The recently formed Florida Math Coalition is bringing together partners across the state, including the Florida Chamber Foundation and our Board of Trustee members, such as the University of Florida's Lastinger Center and the Florida Philanthropic Network, to research and create recommendations for how we can strengthen Florida's talent pipeline by aligning math education opportunities and the needs of the future workforce. Math plays a major part in closing our skills gaps and making sure Floridians can support the workforce needs of their area. We are currently looking for business leaders, educators, and parents to participate in virtual focus groups to share their views on the state of math in Florida and the connections of success in the classroom to students' future success. Please see the information on the screen if you'd like to get involved or participate in our focus group interviews. Now, Back to the data. Taking a look at the single-family housing market, monthly closed sales were down over 10% in March compared to a year ago. This lower level of sales is likely due to stubborn interest rates and is just a continuation of the trends of the past few years. The fairly steady median sale price from this time last year, however, is a disruption to the trend of skyrocketing prices up to this point. Inventory continues to rise, meaning those prices should remain steady in the coming months, and we'll be able to closely watch to see how sales respond. A topic that continues to be top of mind for consumers and business leaders is inflation. Our research team tracks the inflation at the national and regional levels on the Florida Scorecard, staying up to date as the Federal Reserve continues to discuss potential changes to interest rates. After months of unexpected increases in inflation, the rate dropped as anticipated in April. Right now, national inflation is 3.4%, and the southern region's inflation is slightly lower at 3.3%. While the Tampa and Miami metro areas did also see dips, they still have significantly higher inflation than most of the country, with Miami having the highest metro area inflation rate in the entire country. Inflation varies by category, so in addition to tracking inflation overall, let's highlight annual inflation changes by categories. Some categories, like food and energy, are volatile, so we've seen a lot of variation over the past year. However, one category that is a more reliable place to look for trends is housing. Housing inflation has been consistently high, and again this month, the one-year change is higher than any of the other categories. In Miami and Tampa, inflation in housing costs over the past year is above 5%. Let's now shift our focus to consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment is a metric that we look to for a sense of how Floridians feel about the state economy. Consumer sentiment increased in April, meaning that Floridians' outlook on the economy in April was more positive than it was in March. This is likely due to an improvement in Floridians' views about the national economic outlook over the next 5 years. And this is somewhat surprising considering the increases in inflation, but economic growth continues to be positive and the labor market here in Florida is strong. Newly updated visitation statistics from Visit Florida bring exciting news of record-breaking tourism here in Florida. The number of visitors in 2023 surpassed the previous record in 2022 with over 140 million people traveling to Florida last year. Of these travelers, over 129 million were domestic. The first quarter of 2024 was also historic, with the highest quarterly visitation on record. There were over 40 million people who traveled to Florida in the first few months of this year, which is a promising indicator for another record-breaking year in 2024. To stay up to date on the metrics that matter to securing the future of Florida as soon as they are released, there are a couple ways you can stay connected. Follow @FloridaBTN, which stands for By the Numbers, on X or Twitter, where updated figures and analyses are posted regularly. Also, be sure to check the floridascorecard.org on a regular basis, because updated metrics are added as soon as they become available at both the state and county levels to help Florida's leaders lead with data-driven insights. The Florida Scorecard and our team's accompanying research and analyses on these metrics are made possible by the Florida Chamber Foundation's community development partners, companies with a statewide footprint committed to championing the research and solutions for Florida's long-term economic success. If you have any questions regarding the topics covered today or the work of the Florida Chamber Foundation, please reach out to me through the information on the screen. From everyone at the Florida Chamber, thanks for tuning in for another update on the metrics that matter as we work to move Florida to a top 10 global economy by 2030.